Hello, everyone. I think we're about to get started with our next session. I'm just going to introduce myself really quick. Can everybody hear me? I had to move into this weird back closet. Okay. Um, Welcome to the Abolitionist Visions and Intersections Summit hosted by the American Library Association Social Responsibilities Roundtable, or SRRT. SRRT believes that libraries and librarians must center social responsibility by recognizing and helping to solve social problems and inequities to work for the common good. My name is Catherine Hicks. I'm a scholarly engagement librarian at Tulane University in New Orleans. I'm joined today by Rachel Rosekind, who will be monitoring the chat, and Rebecca Black, who will be monitoring the Q&A. I'm just going to really quickly introduce our next speaker, who will then take it away and do, I think, their own little housekeeping. So Yesenia Moya Garay, is the founder of the Mojada Inc., which mobilizes people from all backgrounds, offering trainings, workshops, and keynotes to champion healing and positive transformation. So with that, I'm just gonna turn it over. Thank you, Yesenia.
All right, can y'all hear me? Give me some thumbs up, some hearts in the chat. My name is Yesenia Moya. I am really, the word excited isn't the right word, because this work, is something that I live with. And as I was preparing my materials this morning, many things were coming up for me because this is something that affects me, my family, the people around me on a daily basis. And the work never stops. And the state continues to find ways to come after my communities. And so I'm grateful for every single person in this room that's willing to engage in this discussion. This is going to be more of a roundtable. I want to hear from y'all. If any folks in the room have been impacted, this is a space for you to share your stories. So I'm gonna have some community agreements and some community assumptions, as well as asking folks for some security so that our folks that are in the room that are undocumented or have been can feel safe to share their story and that it will not be shared outside of this space. So I want to welcome everybody. I want to say thank you so much. I know that usually these are recorded, and I know that they're recording right now. So if folks are comfortable with these conversations being recorded, give me a thumbs up. If you'd like for this to be off the record, definitely let us know so we can tell people, and you can do a thumbs down. And then I'll take a look. I'm seeing some thumbs up. Yo, there's so many of y'all in here. That's so beautiful. Thank y'all so much for being here.
We can also start and stop the recording at any time. So if folks would like to share, they can just request that we pause the recording before they share and turn it back off.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah, there's so many of y'all in here. I love it. I'm really grateful that I get to share my story with y'all, but also just to facilitate this conversation that sometimes can feel really uncomfortable, especially when we're met with having, some privileges and maybe not understanding. So if you feel like you have some emotional reactions to this, definitely take care of yourself. If you need to step away for a second, but also recognize that impacted people can't step away from this. Impacted people live in this every day. And so I'm asking you to kind of feel your way through that uncomfortableness, but definitely take care of yourself, whether it's drinking some water, taking some snacks, whatever it is, taking away from this conversation is very, very important. So I'm going to share some community assumptions and agreements just so that we can all be on the same page. And let me know if you can see my screen. Come on. Where you at? Okay, so it's sharing the, let me know. Can y'all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so, because I can't see, can y'all see the full list?
Yeah, your community
Yeah.
agreements and community assumptions, yes.
Awesome. So, community agreements are things that we can all discuss, we can add to, but really important are the community assumptions. So agreements: be curious, open, and respectful. No one knows everything. Together we know a lot. That one's really important to me because, again, nobody knows or understands things more than the people that it's happening to. And there's a quote by Glennie Martin, who's a formerly incarcerated person, who says that the most impacted people are the ones that are closest to the solution. So that's really, really important for folks to understand, that the folks that are going through these in the communities are the ones that understand and know how to fight this. Take care of yourself, confidentiality, one mic, take space, make space, take space, and particularly for our folks who have gone through this or have a family that has and has mixed status. If you hear some jargon from me, definitely feel free to ask in the questions what it means, and break it down, because sometimes I can get it happens to all of us. So if you are responding to a discussion, same thing, please break down the jargon for other folks in the room. Be aware of time. Speak from your own experience. Don't speak for others. So use I statements when you're talking. It's also very important. And be conscious of intent versus impact. Again, that leads back to, like, this can be very emotional and things like that. So just be aware of the space you're taking. The community assumptions, these are things that everybody in the room should just assume out of this conversation, is that systems of oppression exist. All systems are interconnected. Dismantling systems of oppression benefits everyone. Confronting social injustice is painful and joyful. Liberation is possible, and opposing systems of oppression, building alternatives, and cultural change are all necessary. So I'm not sure if folks would like to add any more, how y'all feel comfortable with these. You can give me some thumbs up and some hearts too. Drop them in the chat if there's anything else that you'd like to add. But these are just good ways for us to just stay in kind of center of ourselves. So now I don't have a slideshow, but I do have bits and pieces of different campaigns, and just spaces that have required organizing. I am from a small town in Chihuahua, Mexico. I was born and raised there, and I was brought here when I was very young. My parents were forced to come here due to economics and, whatever happened with NAFTA. If y'all don't know what NAFTA is, it's a good time to look it up. NAFTA is the national trade agreement that allowed Mexico, Canada, and the United States to create open commerce amongst each other. But what this really did was allow the United States to go into Mexico and change our constitution. It took away indigenous communal lands and rented them indefinitely to United States corporations and farming, to the point where now our own strawberries cost more to buy for locals than it does to buy an American strawberry in Mexican soil. That is just one small example of the way that US imperialism has affected one country, and particularly the one in this southern border, and from where I'm from. So my parents had to come here in the 90s. And it's very important to understand that though me and my family all come from the same background, me, my sisters, and my mom and my dad all lived under the same roof, had access to the same resources. We were all the same class. We have all been impacted by the immigration system in severely different ways, every single one of us. My father was deported when I was 17. My mother ended up deported when I was the same age, a couple months later after my dad. My sister was with my mother, and my other sister was also not here. So I ended up homeless in my last year of high school here in Las Vegas. So my parents moved around a lot while I was growing up, just trying to find work. And it's important for me to always center my family, because if at all, it shows an example of how expansive and systemic the oppression is, um, and how undocumented people are always erased. And we see throughout history that migrants, immigration are always end up being the scapegoats for a lot of the economic troubles and fears and societal issues that are occurring. We see that currently in the political system. In 2016, I got my citizenship. Um, and it was a small tool that allowed me to not be afraid. As soon as they gave me my papers, I was like, and excuse me because I cuss, but I was said, y'all done fucked up. And I'm very honest, because I said, now I'm not going to be quiet. Now I have these 9 little numbers, and I'm going to do everything that I can in my power to ensure that other folks around me, the other family members, cousins, aunts, uncles, no longer have to fear. Um, at the same time, Donald Trump was going on an international platform saying the things that I heard my entire life, these stereotypes about Mexicans, calling us rapists and telling us that we're bringing drugs. He hasn't changed. It's the same thing. What that helped me was a catalyst to understand that folks around me, at least half the people around me, held those same views and beliefs about me. Um, and when I asked those folks around me that were going to vote for this man, why, if they knew me, they would tell me constantly, oh, but you're one of the good ones. You're not like them. And I recognized that what really happened was that folks just didn't understand nor knew um, the nuances of being an undocumented person in this country, nor did they understand the systemic issues that undocumented people face. And so there are so many stereotypes that I set out initially with Mojada Inc. through my blog, to kind of set straight. I wanted people to know how it took me almost 10 years to get my citizenship, and the only reason why I was able to was because I ended up getting married. But there were so many different complications that happened just with that. Um, and I recognize that sharing my story was impactful, but more needed to be done on my end, and that's how I ended up jumping into organizing. And it's really personal for me, because in 2018, my sister ended up getting arrested for running a red light onto an on-ramp and turning right. Um, and I still remember that day she called me. Um, my apologies. So my sister called me in June of 2018, and she said, I'm being arrested and I'm gonna be taken now. I need you to take care of the boys. Um, she has two kids. And from then on, it was a fight against the clock, knowing that here in Nevada, police and ICE had a collaboration agreement called 287G. I'm not sure if folks know what 287G is. And anybody, if y'all do know this,
Mutual use. They report to each other. They help each other. They call on each other.
Yes, so it's a contract that local law enforcement has in various different states. In some states, we've been able to defeat it, like in Nevada, but 287G was a contract that deputized local sheriff's departments into ICE agents. And here in Nevada, we had 11 sheriffs that were in the jails, county and city jails, 24/7. And what they would do is just intake, and they would interview anybody that came in that they would assume was a foreign national. And then they would alert ICE, which would then create an ICE hold and create a flag under their name, which meant that once they were done through the local legal system, then whatever happened after their sentencings, they would be picked up by police, by immigration. We were able to defeat 287G here, but only after my sister was taken. And I want to share, there's so many things that happen once somebody is taken that community doesn't know how to do or doesn't know how to interact. Immigration can be a black hole. And what I mean by black hole is this legal black hole, where there have been people that are in detention indefinitely, and for no reason other than to not have a social security number and to have come into this country by different ways throughout without being inspected by CBP and the borders. So there's so much that goes into it, and it really truly boggles my mind sometimes how folks don't know, but also I understand why. You'd have to be really in it and get attacked by these systems to understand. And so I want to share a poem that I wrote about these struggles against colonialism. Something that continues to be in my heart is how to reclaim our indigenous roots and our indigenous ancestors as a way of healing. And I find that these conversations always feel guided and protected when I talk about my ancestors. So I'm going to share this poem. I am a poet, I am an artist, I am an educator, and I am a complex human being, and we should just really embrace that at all times. So this is called I Am. Feeling like there's no power, my voice is inherent. My tone is raging. I am because I am. Feeling like there's no hope, my life is fortitude. My path is strength. I am because I am. Feeling like a stranger. My home is missing. My tongue is foreign. I am because I am. Feeling like an anomaly. My shape is on fire and my aura is firing. I am because I am. Feeling like there's no way out, my heart trapped, my head in a vice. I am because I am. Feeling restless, my stomach on its side, my pancreas dying. I am because I am. Feeling like I'm falling, my tears dropping, my ears ringing. I am because I am. Feeling of pain and hunger, my memories lost and my histories rewritten. I am because I am. Feeling like I can't do this. My arms rip through and my legs keep pushing. I am because I am. Feelings of loss and grief. My father's arms protect and my mother's words bless. I am because I am. Feeling like I'm finally worthy. My love moves mountains and my anger shakes planets. I am because I am. Thank y'all. It's a very emotional piece for me. Just because it's me reclaiming myself, my strength, my life. And it's something that this system continues to try and take away from us. And so I want to share that with anybody in the room that has been impacted or that hasn't been. Like, this is also understanding that, like, with when I said with the community assumptions, that systems of oppression exist and they hit us all variously in different ways, so differently to all of us. So I want y'all to be thinking about the way that you interact on a daily basis with these systems of oppression, and how abolition, the center and the grounding of these conversations, is something that we need to actively do every day. It's something that we need to show up to the table every single day, because it's not just about dismantling police or prisons or ICE. It's about dismantling an entire system that has been created to keep us all in line so that they can continue to make money off of us. We are all in this together, and it's only through collective liberation and collective action that we can move things. So my story, our stories are important to this because it helps us to humanize each other in moments when we are afraid, in moments when we do not understand. So if there's anything that y'all can take from this, is how you can show up every day, whether you're impacted or not, because understanding that these systems affect you in some form or another. And I'm looking forward to all the other conversations that are going to be happening, because again, abolition is an action. It's not just an idea. It's not just a theory. Abolition is something that you do, is something that you live, eat, and breathe. As an organizer. And even if you don't consider yourself an organizer, as a historian, as an educator, it's something that you have to, again, show up every day and do. And those are really hard lessons to learn. I'm gonna share one of the first things I learned how to do when my sister ended up in ICE detention. One of the very first things that we always have to do, and we need to figure out how to do, is how to fundraise. People don't even don't understand the amount of money and like you don't have rights as an undocumented person in this country. You're not seen as an actual human being. So you're not afforded legal protection. If you are in legal detention, in immigration detention, there is no Miranda rights. One, you won't be appointed a lawyer. So you either have to be able to find yourself a lawyer, afford a lawyer, or you are going to represent yourself. And most often than not, our folks that are representing themselves, they can't speak the language the American system uses. They can't speak the lingo or the jargon, and a lot of times there's nobody to translate for them. When you are inside of ICE detention, unless you have a line to the outside, you won't have access to making phone calls. Everything costs money. Within the first week, me and my sister spent $600 just on phone calls with her, calling us, trying to get information, and just trying to feel some kind of solace. I fundraised, and I had to fundraise every day just to make sure that not was she just taken care of inside and she had access to at least call us, but her rent, her children, her car note. These are all things that people don't think about when you are incarcerated. And it's not just in immigration, but that's why abolition is so important. When you are incarcerated, even if you're just going to jail for a few days or a few weeks, everything in your life can be can be done. You can lose your house, you can lose your job, you can lose your car, you can lose your children. So not only are you fundraising for legal defense in the immigration system, but sometimes you got to find defense in the criminal justice system, and then you got to find the defense in the family courts. There's so much that goes into it, and every case is so different. My sister is the one that's up above me on the left-hand corner. This is all my family. Those two boys are my nephews. They are now 14 and 11. They are my whole world. These folks in this picture is the reason why I do this work. My mother's still undocumented. My sister, one of my sisters now has a residency, but my sister Alicia is still fighting her deportation after almost 5 years, and we're still here. And I want folks to kind of like sit with that we have been in this legal limbo for 5 years, where they either move her court date, or she has to find a different lawyer, or she has to find, because of the immigration law, she has to find a new form of release and relief. And I spent 30 days, night and day, texting, calling, emailing, DMing, not just sharing this one thing, but we had a petition. I was actually able to get a congressional letter of support because I cornered Dina Titus at an immigration clinic that she had here on the East Side. And in front of the media, I told her about my sister and her story. And I said, I need a congressional letter of support so that she can be released from ICE, so she can fight her case from the outside. And she had no choice but to give me this letter, because most of the times they won't, and they'll deny you. But if there's anything that I learned as an organizer, is you got to keep asking, and somebody will give you that yes. You ask 3 times, they tell you no, you move on to the next person above their head, and just so on and so forth. Like, when it comes to organizing for your family's defense, there is nothing that you won't do. I did a call campaign to the sheriff's department. I found the sheriff's personal office number. There's so many different tactics that are used to apply pressure to those in power that can do something. I was grateful enough that a person who was a county commissioner at that time, Chris Gunciagliani, here in Las Vegas, that was willing to support us 100%. She went with us to the courts. She was having conversations with the sheriff's department. When my sister finally came home, she donated to get my sister an ID, because that's why she was arrested, for driving without a license. And I want folks to like really like let that seep in, that my sister's entire livelihood could have been lost just because she was driving without a license. She would have been deported to a country that isn't hers. Our family would have been completely broken and separated. And her children would have lost their mother, all because she was driving without a license. And because she wasn't from this country. That's what this immigration system does. It pits people against each other. It makes people not want to do this work because it's hard to even navigate the system. We were denied to pay her bail when we went up to when she first got arrested, because at that point 287G was still intact. And they told us that if she was bailed out, she'd automatically go to ICE. Unbeknownst to us, she could have been released, but because they didn't want to, they didn't let us bail her out. They didn't let us bail her out. And it was really difficult. But this is only one case amongst the millions. When it comes down to the way that the system works, it works how it's meant to be. When people say that the system is broken, I want folks to understand that it's working exactly how it was designed. This was meant to create separation, to keep us out. But at the same time, the exploitation of undocumented people is seen in every single industry, because undocumented people show up. As I grew up, the very first thing I learned was that if you don't hustle, you don't eat. If you don't work, you don't get nothing to drink today. Your bills aren't paid. So our folks find different ways to be part of the economy, to be part of a society that doesn't want us here. They want our labor, they want our bodies, but they don't want us. They want our food and our culture, but they don't want us. And that's the message I grew up with. But I'm so grateful to have found community that was willing to uplift me and be there for me, and do this work with me. And so the folks that showed up for me when I was helping my sister get out, I lean on those folks. And because of this work, I was able to help other people in their deportation defense and in their work. And throughout the years, I have learned a lot more about how the Polimigra works. If folks don't know what the Polimigra is, that's what we call it. Poli for police, migra for ICE, and it's a term that's in Spanish. So Polimigra literally talks about them being as a whole, one body, how local law enforcement and ICE collude on different levels. 287G is just one of the arms that they use. And so another term that we use is the pulpo migra. Pulpo migra, pulpo meaning octopus, because an octopus has many, many arms and they can grow them back. And migra against immigration. So pulpo migra. So the ICE octopus, right? The immigration octopus. And the reason why we use this term is because as soon as you cut off one arm of the immigration pipeline, another one grows back. For example, now we're seeing these really trendy bills legalizing street vending. I don't know if y'all have heard of some of those. They just passed one here. So legalizing, quote unquote, and I'm using my quotation marks because when you legalize something, you automatically criminalize something else. So what does that mean? That they're making people have permits, and who enforces those permits? It's not the health department. It's the police. So now you have folks that may have a green card. You have Latin Chamber of Commerce, which is predominantly conservative, white Latinos that have a lot of money and capital, who pushed this bill to create permitting and legal, safe vending zones under the guise of commerce and bringing our community more and legitimizing business. But that's not what happened, because right automatically after this bill went through, they didn't have a plan. They didn't have the vending zones ready to go. There was nothing that had been even discussed with community about this bill. But Make the Road Nevada and organizations that they worked with were out politicized by police because they decided to work with police on this bill. They didn't see that this was creating another arm here in Nevada. So even though we were able to get rid of 287G a couple years ago, we had an organization here and Latino legislators that decided that legalizing street vending was okay, despite the fact that it would create a direct pipeline for undocumented street vendors to come in contact with police. And as folks know here, anytime that somebody comes in contact with police, if you are a Black person or an Indigenous person, you are at risk. Your entire life and your livelihood are at risk, no matter what it is. Any excuse that they use to pull you over, whether it's your busted taillight or your unregistered car, something wrong with your plates, not having insurance, driving without a license, speeding tickets, running a red light, running the stop signs. These are all things that a lot of folks with privilege can just do and not fear for their life. But my community can't do that. Black and Indigenous communities can't do that because a traffic stop will and can take your life. And that's why I do this work. I involve myself in organizing and also policy work. Policy work has been one of those ways that I have found empowerment, but because in Nevada, it's easier to access that power because of the easiest form of civic engagement, voting. They make it even easier here. There is online registration. You can register the same day. You can register up until the elections. You can register now at the DMV automatically. That was just one little catalyst of having people use the system to create change. And so we were able to decriminalize traffic tickets. We were able to instill a 48-hour bail hearing so that people weren't held indefinitely before getting a bail. Chipping away at the system in this way, while simultaneously creating systems of care through various organizations in town that are just boots on the ground. Through Mojada Inc., I offer workshops and also what we call participatory defense, which is when community comes together to help somebody's defense. I don't know if y'all have heard about Virgilio and what happened to him in Florida. Virgilio Aguilar is a teenager who is of Mayan descent, and he's from Guatemala, and he was arrested last year, and the officer had a heart attack after he was arrested. And the sheriff's department and the DA decided to charge Virgilio with this officer's death. And so he had charges of murder and manslaughter because this officer died from a heart attack after he cuffed him. Now, Virgilio didn't speak English and he didn't speak Spanish. So for the longest time, he had no interpretation. And he was being held for almost 10 months. Over the last few months, thanks to the Guatemala Mayan Center in Florida that were advocating, we put out a call for a petition that got hundreds of thousands of signatures across the country. And a lot of folks were wondering why we were addressing a petition to DeSantis, knowing who he is. And what I would tell people is that it isn't about DeSantis and it isn't about making him see or changing his mind or convincing him that Virgilio's life mattered, but it was about showing Virgilio and showing the court system that community supported him, that community supported his story, that community didn't feel unsafe because of Virgilio. Part of the work of participatory defense against in immigration court is about humanizing the person that's being incarcerated, the person that's being ripped away from their families. Because to judges, and this is in every court system, not just in immigration, but to judges, you're just a number in a case. And being a number in a case, and you're just sitting there day in and day out, and people are just numbers and cases to you. You don't see and you don't feel who they are as a person. You don't see who they are as a human. So that's why letters of support and petitions, signings are so important when it comes to convincing. And that's the hard part, right? Because we're convincing these people in power that our folks are human beings. Like, does that even make sense? Because it definitely don't make sense to me. Virgilio has now been released. I want to show you a little video of him coming home. This is very recent. But Virgilio's home. Every time I watch that video, I get really excited. Because it took everybody. It took hundreds of thousands of signatures for him to be released. And it shouldn't have to be that way. It shouldn't have to be that that we're begging for people to be seen as human beings. Because this officer didn't die in the line of duty. He died of natural causes. And the sheriff's department put out a statement right after they dropped the charges saying, "We stand by our officer and we ask the community to stand by him. He died a hero in the line of duty." And it's just the audacity to continue to negate somebody's humanity for their own ego. They're saying the quiet thing out loud now, right? But I'm just so happy that Virgilio's going home. His entire family back home was relying on him, and so for the last 10 months, he hasn't been able to provide. A lot of our community just come here so that they can work and send back what they call remittances to their family members in their countries. But that doesn't mean like that folks are taking from the United States, because immigrants give so much back every time with our bodies, with our labor, with our work. I want to share another story. A friend of mine, her brother ended up getting caught up in the immigration detention system when the street vendor bill went live here in Las Vegas. And I'm not sure if folks saw a viral video of an officer on the strip claiming that a street vendor pushed him. There were a lot of ways. I'm reading the chat. Yes, money has a huge impact back home. I take care of my father, and he is sick, so we send him money to care for his expenses back home. I've only been able to see him twice since he was deported in 2007, and most recently I went back last year. So family separation is and has been always my biggest fear, but it's also why I do this work, to keep families together. And that's why when Jose ended up getting caught up, and Rachel, you're so awesome for dropping these awesome tidbits. So I'm gonna share this video of Yadira, that's his sister, that who led the fight to get him released here in Nevada.
Is a very human, loving being who only was working to provide for his family. Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate everyone who has written a letter of support, everyone who has helped us with the fundraising campaign. Everyone who also has called and will continue to call eyes to free him soon, to release him soon, and also everyone calling to drop the charges. We have deep appreciation for everyone who has shown their support to free Jose. My brother needs to be out, needs to be home. We need to bring him home. Ustedes, pero juntos podemos más. Tenemos la misma lucha, paisanos. Somos la misma gente. Nuestros ancestros han estado aquí cientos y miles de años y nadie nos quita eso de la sangre. Hacer llamada al District Attorney Watson para que él baje y pare los cargos contra José, porque nunca debió haber sido arrestado. Y mucho menos nomás por buscar ayuda, por estar trabajando, como muchas de nuestras gentes.
He was able to get home and has been fighting his case from home for the last few months. And he was also arrested last year, right? Like I said, right after SB 92 was pushed. And he's not the only one. A lot more folks have been detained since then by simply coming into contact with police. And it never gets easier. Every single time, every story gets harder. It gets harder to keep our composure, to not burn it down. But we show up every day. And what does it mean to actively fight the Polimigra, to actively be part of an abolitionist movement? When we're thinking about abolition, I don't think a lot of people think about how other folks other than US citizens are affected. And that's because US centrism and the indoctrination is so heavy. And so I ask folks in this room who are US citizens to think about what it would be like to be an undocumented person. To think about what it would mean to not even have those 9 little digits and what your life could mean. I recently did a podcast interview with a friend of mine. And it's the first time I ever really talked about me, myself, or why I do this work. I want to share with y'all a little clip of that. And then I can share the recording too in the chat.
So
that was my attitude.
So now you're in middle school, you speaking English, what's life like?
I think it was at that point, trying to transition between being a child, very protective from my parents. And then at that moment, I was translating everything for them. We had a business going.
So now you went from you learning English to now reversing the cycle, and now you have to teach your parents English.
Yep.
This is your life as a child.
Yep. Everybody around me thought I was doing.
So everybody, all the adults in your life speak Spanish, and you're teaching them English.
Yep. Yep. And not to take anything away from them, because if you imagine going to another country, not knowing anything, starting from the bottom, not knowing the language, the culture, or anybody, it takes some freaking balls.
Oh, hell yeah.
It
Absolutely.
takes some balls.
Absolutely. But I'm saying that's a lot of, for you to go through that, that's like the rose growing through the concrete.
Yeah, it's
you went from learning yourself to now you teaching your parents, and they getting legal businesses and legal jobs, and really you not knowing it, but you putting the family on your back, because if they can't speak English, people could cheat them with the money. They don't get the right stuff. So the family's really on you as a child.
And I think
whether you know it or not.
Yeah, I was told, when you're growing up Mexican and you're the oldest, you're told once you get a job and you get this, and you're gonna take care of everybody else.
Yeah.
It's,
So
and
that's
that was-
embedded
that
in
was
you
the
as
conversation.
you.
Like, I just knew, like, it was just my dad would sit down with me and tell me, hey, if anything ever happens to me, it's fine. Like, you gotta
Yeah.
take care of your mom, you gotta take care
You
of
gotta
your
take care of the
sisters.
family.
And I was little, but, I'm only a year and a month older than my middle sister.
So now you get to high school. What's high school like for you?
I was starting to get some friends, but it was. So the reason why I share that is that a lot, and I don't want to say a lot, but all of my work is deeply rooted in my family and the way that the system has affected us. I have had cousins and uncles that got lost in the desert. I have had family members that were disappeared and never came home, whether it was through ICE detention, immigration, or them just being lost to the elements on their way here. And this is a very real reality for a lot of our people. I'm not sure, like, if you don't know a lot about the border militarization, I would definitely look into people like No More Deaths or No Más Muertes. They're an organization that goes out into the desert in Arizona and they look for people that are in need. They set up water stations, they set up triage centers. What would you do if you had no choice but to walk for 20 miles in the desert? Like, what would you do if your children had no food to eat, no shelter? Would you walk those 20 miles where you could potentially get a job, potentially create a new life for yourself? And would you be able to do it? I think about this all the time, the strength that it took my mother for her to be here, to bring me here. And now to fulfill all of her life dreams for me, because that's all they wanted. They wanted me to have a better life, which in return just always makes me even more grateful and even more centered and grounded in doing this work and doing good work for all of our people, because I do believe that the next generation shouldn't have to go through what I've been through. Which is why all of it is interconnected. I help with mutual aid networks that give back food, not just to undocumented people, but to all of our unhoused neighbors. I help and collaborate with various collectives that do a lot of work, from food pantries to mutual aid shares, helping people find housing, helping people get set up. And all this comes from seeing my parents do that for others. If y'all get a chance to listen to the podcast, please do. It definitely shares a lot about my story and my family and how we got here and why I do this work. I wanted to do a quick time check. Rachel?
So we're yeah, it's okay. We're at 13 past and we're supposed to end in just a couple minutes, but we can flow over a little bit too. We have, little wiggle room and it's okay. Do what you need
Thank
to.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm gonna share a little video that we made to give folks a little information about Alto Polimigra, and I can share that in the chat too, and y'all can share that with others. It's just a quick tidbit on what it is and what it does and how it works. Yesenia Moya. I am a local community organizer and an impacted person. The Polimigra, if you've never heard about them, That's the phrase that we use to name the effective and convoluted collusion between local law enforcement and ICE. Biggest reason why they get away with whatever they want to do is because they have an arm in so many different things. There's other interactions that result with police in racial profiling and blatant xenophobia, the arbitrary licensing laws that we see with this street vendor bill. But once ICE is notified by police that a non-US citizen is under arrest, it can trigger an ICE hold, which then gives ICE time to pick them up. Immigration detention is inhumane. And once you're stuck in the pipeline, it is like you're stuck in a legal black hole. The legal processes for foreign nationals are way different than US citizens because you're not granted legal counsel and you have no right to one. But if you'd like to get one, you can pay out of your own pocket. The dehumanization of undocumented people through narratives of the war on drugs and NAFTA will not tell you that many folks leave their countries because of forced displacement due to the violence by the US. Help us to fight against police ICE collaboration by joining us at this rally on Friday, the 18th, starting at 3:30. Learn more about the fight to end the Polimigra and how to get involved to support Jose. He doesn't deserve to be trapped in this mess of a system because of the consequences of legislation created by uninformed people. El pueblo salva al pueblo, and we are all we got. My name is Yesenia. This was a short video that we did to get people to come to the rally to learn more. And this was before the other video that you saw of the rally of Jose. It was actually raining and people stayed for a whole 2 hours in front of the ICE building to demand that Jose be free. In the rain without like any cover, and we ended up just like wet from head to toe. But we screamed and we did some work. We got petitions signed, we got letters of support, we fundraised money, and we got the word out there. One of the folks who helped us a lot was Alex Enamorado. If y'all don't know who Alex Enamorado is, he's currently being detained under terrorism charges for seeking to protect street vendors. This is another thing that is happening currently right now. If you can get in the fight to help, at least sign the petition to free the Justice 8 and get more information. You can get more information on my social media. Let me post that link. 1 second. Oh no, I lost it. Okay, so this link is for the video that you just saw. And then I'm gonna share this other link to some slides about the Justice 8 and what they are being charged with and how you can support. Again, the Justice 8 are a group of folks in San Bernardino that have been fighting to protect undocumented street vendors from violence. And they've been protesting at police officers' houses. They've been protesting at racist people's houses that have attacked street vendors, and they have shown up to city council meetings. And now, because they have started going after the corruption in their city, they have now all been arrested and have been held without, 7 of them have been held without bail for the last.
Yesenia, you just went on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, not sure what the last thing y'all heard was. But essentially the Justice 8 has been incarcerated for 4 months now without bail. One of them was released, and he was forced to not be on social media anymore. Let me see if I think it's this one. Yeah, this is it. Okay, I'm gonna share this in the chat too. So this is a video of some slides about information about Alex Enamorado and the other organizers. It has how you can sign the petition to ensure that they're free. I can drop that link in the chat as well. thought I had it and then I guess it went away. Okay,
It's
here
okay.
we go.
You know, Yesenia, we're going to send also a list of resources and links after the summit. So anything that you find afterwards that you want to share along, you can pass along to me and I'll make sure that it's included.
Awesome. So I dropped it in the chat too. This is the petition. If y'all can sign that petition to demand the release of them, is really important because they've shown up for us in our communities, and so we need to show up for them too. I really do appreciate y'all spending this time with me. Oop, my phone's being wild. And just listening, and there it is. I am here to be a resource of any kind, whatever y'all need, whether it's education purposes, whether it's just reaching out with more information or how to organize people. This is a little bit of everything that I do, but it is all really centered in community and the needs of our people. And again, I'm just grateful for y'all to have spent this time with me and listened to me and my story and the stories of so many other folks that are going through it. So I see there's a question in the Q&A. How we do this? Y'all want to just drop questions in the chat or in the little Q&A box?
So I would say we have about 5 minutes before the start of the next panel. So I think the question, I'm not looking at the chat, but I do see a question about how people can follow your work and get in touch with you. And I think you dropped contact information in there.
And
In the
I can also type my email and my Instagram. Instagram is a really good source for a lot of organizing when it comes to this work. So you can follow me on my Instagram, Mojada Inc. You can also email me at mojada.inc@gmail.com, which I'm also dropping that in the chat.
Thank you so much. And thank you for honoring us and being available and willing to share your story and your advocacy and your power with us. Thank you.
I appreciate y'all. Thank you. Hit me up. Let me know if you need anything. I'm here for y'all. The most important thing that we can do is build community, and building community scares them. Y'all listening to me today scares the system.
Thank you. Thanks for those powerful words. We'll take a few minute break and then we'll be back for our next panel. Thank you.